a very good morning to all of you ladies, and welcome to our live safaris. Now, I believe that you had a little bit of a sneak peek earlier as to what we have in store for you this morning, but just to let you know, please ask me lots and lots of questions. I'm really curious and I'm interested to hear from you. What's your favorite animal? Why is it your favorite animal? And for those of you who don't know by now, my name is Jamie, and this morning I have Andrew on camera with me. So he's sitting on the back of the vehicle with the camera, bringing you all of these wonderful images that we see. Now, 8 years ago, I finished a matric at Rodin, and in 8 years' time, I think I found myself pretty much in one of the best jobs in the best environments in the world. Now, let's have a look at, oops, she lifted her head, the lady sitting in the tree, or sleeping in the tree, actually. I'm sure many of you know by now, we've been fortunate enough to have our Queen Karula right, I think probably about maybe 300 meters from where I live, on an open clearing. She's had an impala kill in the tree. Her name is Karula, and she's thought of as the Queen of Djuma, which is where I am now. I'm in the Sabi Sands, and I'm sure quite a few of you have been here, or at least to the Kruger National Park. They essentially have 2.7 million hectares of open wilderness. It is a place that has existed for many years. Animals have been roaming around here, and you'll probably find that Karula's genetic line has come from generations back of female leopards who've lived in this area. Now, we call her the Queen of Djuma. She has been an incredibly successful female leopard, and we're essentially sitting right in the middle of her territory. She's raised several litters of cubs successfully, which is a very daunting task for a mother leopard. She's got to do it all on her own and protect them from lots of things that want to eat her. She's scratching her ear, I think. She's trying to just give her cheek a good rub. Looking very peaceful and actually quite uncomfortable. I don't know how leopards manage it. That is one of the thinnest branches here. Now, the reason she's up this particular tree and in quite an uncomfortable spot is because she's been sitting with an impala carcass for the last 3 or so nights. Now, last night she actually spent, I think she spent the better part of the evening trapped up a marula tree with a very patient hyena sitting underneath it. Now, leopards fall quite low down on the predator hierarchy, so for Karula, she's probably about 45 kilograms, and a 60-kilogram hyena is definitely a threat. And he or she was patiently waiting underneath her tree, trying to steal bits of carcass that had fallen down while she was feeding. And now she's back up in the tree, trying to guard her kill against vultures. They're the new threat of the day. And if we have a look, there's just a little bit of meat still left on her kill, tucked into the joint of the jackalberry, and it's very kindly wafting the scent of 3-day-old meat in our direction. Now, this is a very sad sight to see, so we're not going to linger too long on it, but it is, of course, part of the way that things work out here. This is one of the impala ewes, and Karula stashed it up here to basically act as a pantry. Now, bonus points, I'm not sure how well you guys know your trees. I want to see if any of you can guess, or if you know the name. I'll be very impressed if you do, so don't stress if you don't. I'll be very impressed if you can tell me the name of this particular tree. It's actually quite unusual to see one out here in this particular clearing. They're usually around drainage lines and rivers. It's a beautiful big tree with dark bark and thick foliage, which is why it's one of the favorites for leopards to be hanging around in. And there's the threat that she's hiding from. He's going to circle back around now. That is a hooded vulture. Where's he gone? There we go. Well done, Andrew. Oh, it's quite a cold and windy day out here. I'm sure you can hear the wind howling. Just imagine you are on the back of the vehicle with me, because that is what we're going to do. I'm going to take you out on a game drive and try and teach you as much as possible about this amazingly wonderful landscape that we live in. But we have a question from Ella as to what the best part of my job is. Well, Ella, that's a really difficult one for me. I think that there's so many different amazing aspects, but if I had to pick one, apart from the incredible sights that I see, we've had some amazing wild dog sightings. Karula's been sleeping in the tree right outside my house for the last 3 days. But apart from that, I think it's the fact that it's never ever boring. I wake up my alarm goes off at 3:45 in the morning, and I always am excited to face the day. And not only is it never boring, but I never know. I always learn something every single day. There's so much stuff out here that we don't know about. And what you'll see is if you sit with animals long enough, we do this every day, every morning, every afternoon. When you sit with the animals for a really long time, you'll see them doing things that nobody else has seen, that nobody else has ever recorded as behavior. We had a wild dog sighting where, now wild dogs are coursers, so they chase the animals down until they're exhausted. And in this particular case, they were chasing impala. The impalas are heavily pregnant at the moment. I'm actually going to try and find some to show you. They are bursting. They're all about to drop their lambs very, very soon. And when they do, it's always an amazing time to be out in the bush. But this particular impala was running away. She was exhausted, and she ran and then ducked behind a bush and lay down. And then the minute the wild dog shot past her, she got up and ran in the opposite direction. That's something that none of us, and we've got a good couple of decades of combined guiding experience between the team. It's something that none of us have ever seen before. Something quite phenomenal to see. I don't think Karula's going to be up to too much, but we're going to sit with her for just a little bit longer and spend some time with her before we go racing off. Oh, there we go. Well spotted, Andrew. Another scavenger waiting to try and have a go at her kill. Now, hooded vultures are particularly good at this. They've got thin beaks and they specialize in basically capitalizing on the, you can hear the wind howling. They capitalize on the leftovers of kills, the tiny small bits. That's why it's got such a thin beak. They're basically the toothpicks of the vulture world. That's amazing. I'm very impressed, considering how long it's taken me to learn some of the trees out here. Alexia, it is a jackalberry. Very, very well done. And in a moment, when my brain kicks into gear, I will remember the Latin name, but just give me a moment to think about it. Diospyros mespiliformis is the Latin name of the jackalberry tree. There you go. Knew it was somewhere stored in the back of my files of Latin names. But that is a jackalberry tree. Very, very well done, Alexia. I'm impressed. And as I said, it's unusual to see them out in these clearings. I've said that we're currently sitting looking at Karula. And Dom, you wanted to know how we name them. Karula means peace. Karula was not very peaceful on Monday morning, but for the most part they are named by the guides that get to know them the best, if that makes sense. So we try and name them based on their personalities. Karula is the peaceful one. Her daughter Shadow, who lives just across in the adjacent territory. Shadow was named Shadow because she was quite mysterious and difficult to find during the first years of her life. We generally do that with leopards. With lions, it's a bit different. They are named after the areas that their prides are generally found in, for the most part. So we have the Birmingham boys, who came from the Birmingham Pride, and that is a pride that was based on a farm called Birmingham. Then we have the Nkuhuma Pride, which is the name of a brown ivory tree, because that is where they were first found. And that dangling tail that you're looking at the moment, that is her perfectly balanced and structured balancing system. So it's about 2/3 the length of her body and very heavy. It's weighted down. And it's her way of, it basically acts like a rudder. It helps to, when she's chasing something, to steer her, stop her from falling over, and then helps her sit in the way that she is, completely fast asleep, even though she's dangling on what looks to be a very insecure perch. Caitlin, you were wondering how old Karula is. She is the matron of this area. She's 11 years old. Now that's not particularly old for a leopard. They can live up into their about 20, but still it's an impressive lifespan for an animal that has life very hard out here. Is a tricky one. And Rosie, you were wondering what her favorite food is. Now the very first time I saw Karula properly, she was busy eating a steenbok. Is a tricky one. And Rosie, you were wondering what, so things like steenbok and little grey duikers, those are the easiest ones for them to catch because they're strong. They're not as strong as the bigger antelope. It's a nice food source for them. When I saw her, she devoured an entire steenbok, bones and hooves and all that was left was the jawbone in a space of about 20 minutes. That was my, I would say, my very first proper sighting with Karula. She is hunting impala. She has killed that female impala, which is a very impressive feat, because that impala probably weighed about 60 kilograms, so 20 kilograms more than her. Now, Alana, you were wondering why they're far, or she's far from the tree. I should probably clarify as we move along the branches, that is where the kill is. She is in the same tree as the kill to try and protect it from the vultures. Now, she's been gorging herself on that particular impala for 3 days, so she's not hungry at the moment. She's very full. But that being said, she has spent quite a bit of time away from the kill. So yesterday evening, she was probably about, just looking at the marula tree, probably about 50 meters away from the main part of the kill. And that's because she knows that it's safe up there at night. The hyenas can't get it. But now during the day, because the vultures have spotted it, she's being a bit more protective. Now, Alana, can you see the leopard and the impala tucked away in the tree? They're just, it is very dark, but that is where they are. The impala's in the main branch of it, and Karula's hanging on the edge of the branches there. Oh, we've had such a treat. The reason I came here directly is because it's cold, and Karula has been here for 3 days, so I think very soon she is going to start moving around. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to try and shift so that we can get a view of her beautiful, beautiful face, and I'm going to give her a nice wide berth. Called Jigger. We name the vehicles because they all have their own little quirks and personality types. Jigger's named Jigger because jiggers on the road. A slightly bent steering column means that it doesn't always go straight, even if your wheels are straight. She's in a tricky spot, and she's just turned her head away from us. Hey, big girl. Well, Jessica, I'm sure that you're aware of the fact that the whole of the country, the whole of South Africa, has been in quite a severe drought. And yes, we have had rain, which is great for us. I'm really, really grateful that it has come, but it's still not nearly enough. You know, a couple of mils here and there. We need to have about 500 milliliters of rain to qualify as this being a good rainy season. Now, last year we had about 120, maybe 150 in the Sabi Sands. This year promises to be much the same, and it does put the animals under tremendous pressure. Even cats like Karula. How incredibly camouflaged she is. Next time you're in Kruger and you're driving past some of the big trees along the rivers, always take a moment to stop and peer into them. I'm just looking at her and the way that she's positioned now. It looks like the least comfortable spot I've ever seen her well, no, not quite, but it almost looks like the most uncomfortable position. Her head is dangling, her bottom is sort of wedged onto a very small, uncomfortable looking stick. That doesn't look cozy at all, Karula. Shame, man. You didn't pick the best comfortable tree to sit in. Now, Karula is dangling off the edge, and I know that Alexia wanted to know, do leopards ever fall out of trees? The answer is yes, although for the most part they tend to be very dexterous, very balanced animals. I have seen leopard cubs in particular fall out when they're still learning a bit about their coordination and balance. I've seen her grandson attempt to climb trees and then promptly fall out of them. It does happen. This is one of the really special things about working out here, is just the amount of leopards that we have and that we get to see, and that are very comfortable in our presence. Hey, big girl. Thank you. Brief look in our direction. A passing glance by the Queen. We should feel honored. I've said that we've got lots of leopards around us, and Lee Nay, you were wondering how many we have in just this tiny part of the Sabi Sands that we work in. We work in an area of about 1,600 hectares in an area the size, as I said, of 2.7 million. But we've got a tiny little segment. We have Karula here, we have her daughter Shadow, two really big dominant males, Tingana and Mvula, as well as Karula's slightly older sons, Quarantine Kunuma, and then a couple of other random leopards that move around. So Kwatile, who comes in every now and again, the Anderson male. We reach up into about 10 that we see every now and again, but most regularly it's Karula and her daughter Shadow, as well as Tingana and Mvula. Now they are solitary, but we've spent some very interesting time with Karula and Tingana recently. You look at that beautiful spot pattern of hers. She's not showing us her face today, but Zoya, you were wondering how we're able to tell the leopards apart. When you spend as much time with them as we do, you start to recognize them almost instantly. You find the more you look at them, the more differences you see, but each individual leopard has a unique spot pattern and a unique look to them, as well as every now and again you might find one with a notch out of its ear. That is what we're looking for. And there's a way of counting whisker spot patterns as well, and that gives you a unique pattern on each side around their whiskers. Now Karula, if she would kindly look at us, but almost, no, not so much. Not so much. Hey girl, you're too asleep to look at us. She's got a wow. Her spots spell out the word wow between her eyes. Now, we've spent some amazing time with her, but our time is short, and I want to head out and find some other amazing things to show you. And there we go. Hello girl. Karula is quite a small female, but all leopards, there's a very, very big difference between the size of the males and the females. So the male that she was mating with recently, Tingana, he's about double her size and weight, and his neck is very, very thick, and that's usually the best way to tell the difference between the males and the females. You know how male lions have manes to help protect them if they get into fights with each other? Well, male leopards have a similar dewlap. Oh, hello girl. Are you up? Male leopards have a similar, very thick, very muscular neck to protect them. There she goes. Oh, big yawn. There's very, very little meat left on her kill, but Isabella, you were wondering how long she'll feed on one. With this impala, it's lots and lots of meat for her. So she's been here since Monday, feeding on this carcass. And she is probably nearly finished. I think she's going to neck to protect them. There she goes. Oh, big yawn. There's very, very little meat left on her kill, but Isabella, you were wondering how long she'll feed on one. With this impala, it's lots and lots of meat for her. So she's been here since Monday, feeding on this carcass. and she is probably nearly finished. I think she's going to be gone by tonight, possibly even this afternoon. I think she's thinking about it. I'm going to shuffle forward no, I'm actually not. I'm going to just let her respond and decide what she wants to do without disturbing her. I mentioned that we've seen Karula mating with Tingana, and there's a very, very good chance that she is pregnant right now. Where's she gonna go? I think she's gonna come down the tree, or she's finding somewhere else. You can see how she disappears into the foliage. Which way are you gonna go, girl? Now, Nyaleti, I've said she might be pregnant, and you were wondering how many cubs has she had. And the answer is, I think it's somewhere in the region of 11 litters that she's had in the past. And she's raised most of them successfully from adulthood. Now, there was a very sad situation at the start of the year where her cubs were taken by spotted hyenas, and that does happen, especially when they're very little. They can't climb trees as well as their mothers, and they are hidden away, tucked in thick bush. But unfortunately, in this particular case, the spotted hyena found them and killed them. It's something that happens out here. It's very, very sad for the females, though. Now, Kariro, you were wondering if cubs ever eat in the tree with the females. Yes, they do. And it's interesting to watch how different leopards handle their cubs and raise their cubs. Her daughter Shadow has also had several litters of cubs, and she's lost almost all of them. And there's a lot of questions as to why Shadow doesn't drag her kills up into trees as often as Karula does, as she's done here. But once cubs are a little bit bigger, with the sort of the age of around 2 to 3 months, then they can start eating meat, and they can go up into trees with their mothers. Now she's settled down and gone back to sleep again, looking distinctly uncomfortable, as always. And I think we'll say goodbye to Karula for now and head out and see what else we can find. We've got lots and lots of exciting and small things that I need to show you. One in particular, as a sign of summer, is a nest hole, and I've got a special video to show you. Let's head across and do that. I've spent a lot of time out on foot in the bush and a lot of time in the vehicles with the different animals that we get out here. And Zoe, you were wondering which is more dangerous, a lion or a leopard? In my opinion, leopards probably are a little bit more dangerous, but it's important to remember that actually all animals out here are wild and unpredictable at times. You never know what's happening in an animal's life. Now, in my experience, lions are afraid of people, and that depends again on where you are or where you're, the sort of life that the lion has had. First of all, there's different circumstances. So lions are much bigger than leopards, so they can do more damage, but leopards are phenomenally strong and much, much faster. And that's important to remember as well. But both of them are equally dangerous, particularly when they have cubs. And you'll usually find, both with lions and with leopards, that it's the females that are the most dangerous and the ones to look out for. And generally my worst lion charges, where they've come running at me to warn me, to send me away, have been females, quite often I think guarding cubs. But it's important again to remember that none of these animals are out to get you. They are far more afraid of us than we are of them. They just need to be treated with utmost respect. As we leave our 11-year-old wonderful Queen of Juma, Eve, you were wondering what a leopard's lifespan is. It's can be up to about 20 in the wild. You do get them some exceptional cases living a bit longer, but those are generally in captivity. So for Karula, she's probably got quite a few years left, but life gets a little bit more difficult the older they get. Oh, the sun's coming out. How wonderful. A bit of a driving experience. Claire, you were wondering how old Shadow is. Shadow is Karula's oldest daughter in this area. Shadow's 9 years old, so it would have been Karula's first set of cubs that she had as a very, very young female. They usually breed for the first time at around 2. So there's a 2 years age difference between Karula and her daughter Shadow. And Ruby, you are wondering if Shadow stays with Karula. Leopards are interesting that way. They're solitary, but what happens is when the cubs are slowly getting to be independent, the females tend to leave their mothers first and go off on their own mission, but they won't move too far away from their mothers. So generally you'll find in an area, the females, although they don't interact too much and they don't spend much time with each other, it's usually a female and her daughters. So Shadow's territory, although she doesn't spend that much time with Karula, is just to our western side of where we are now. And the borders are fluid. So sometimes Karula will be in the east and Shadow will come across into the western edges of her territory. And it changes like that. If they do encounter each other, they don't actually like to spend generally all that much time. They don't socialize in the way that we might think they would. And sometimes if they encounter each other, they'll actually growl at each other. That being said, you never ever predict what an animal's going to do. So I know there are recorded cases of mothers sharing kills with their daughters as well as their granddaughters. So leopards know and remember those family bonds. And they're far more aggressive towards females that have come into their territory that are not related to them in any way. What I'm going to show you is one of the signs of summer, but before I do that, Chloe, you wanted to know, how does Karula kill her prey? Leopards are incredibly fast, incredibly efficient hunters, and they rely mainly on stealth. But that being said, they can cover 22 meters in 1 second. So they'll use their camouflage, wait for an antelope to get close to them, and then cover that distance incredibly quickly before the antelope even has a chance to respond. So they're phenomenal in that way. And then what they'll do is they will tackle the animal usually around the throat. Sometimes if it's a small antelope, then they can crush the brain case, but for the most part it's a stranglehold around the throat. And usually a very quick, very clean death for that creature. The reason I've stopped here is we're going to have a look at this hole that is in the marula tree, and then I'm going to show you why in a moment. Let me just get the video for you. This is something we've been monitoring over the last few days. Now in there, how many of you have seen a lilac-breasted roller? Those beautiful bright colored birds. Now what if I told you that about a meter down in that hole there are some baby lilac-breasted rollers, and I'm going to try and see the lights actually come back out, which might make it a bit difficult. But let me see if I can try and show you a video of what they look like. I'm going to reposition so that the sun doesn't go straight onto the screen and block it from you. Let's see if we can make this work, Andrew. I'm not sure if we can. Let's try. Try and shade a little bit with my hat. The video is dark, but I'm hoping we might be able to get to see them. Let's get it ready. Now this was at the very first, let me turn it this way. That might help. Can you see there, Andrew? Was it reflecting? Tilting it down a little bit. is tiny little baby birds, absolutely minuscule. 9 days later, let me try and tilt a little bit. No, man. Here we go. 9 days later, look at the feathers on them. It's incredible how fast they start to get that adult plumage. The mothers have been backwards and forwards feeding them. How cool is that we get to monitor them? It takes them about 20 days to go from hatching to fully fledged, able to fly. When you think about what has to go on in their bodies in terms of producing those feathers and producing all of that keratin, it is the most phenomenal, mind-boggling process. And their parents are kept very busy, which is why I'm going to leave them for now. Their parents are kept very busy coming and going to feed them. Oh, there she is. There's Mom. Let me try and stop so I can show you what those birds are going to look like. That's right, Mommy. There you go. You're doing a fantastic job. She's actually caught something. Now that is what those baby birds are going to look like. There we go. Look at those incredible different colors. Now the amazing thing about birds is that those blues and purples are actually created by clear keratin. So it's made more by the refraction and reflection of light, so the way that the light is bouncing back, than it is by color pigments. Birds only have black color pigments and then yellow color pigments. The rest of it is created by light reflection. It's incredible to think about. I still can't really wrap my mind around that, and there are one or two exceptions, but that is the general rule. I've also spotted one of my favorite animals out here, and I'm going to try and see if they're going to be cooperative. They're not always, but they are sometimes. Try and get you a view of these little creatures. Hopefully they're curious enough to pop their heads out. And while I do... Oh, sorry, Chica. Let's try not to stall. Alexia, you wanted to know if any of the guides or rangers have ever been attacked by animals. I'm just going to focus in on this termite mound and see if these little guys are going to become curious enough to come out. Alexia, yes, it does happen. It's part of the way that things go out here. Now, I believe that you were here a little bit early and you...
There's a lizard.
There's a lizard. Oh, look at that. That's so cool. That's not what I was after, but that's epic. Well done, Andrew. Look at those brilliant spot patterns. I'm trying to just see what it is. It looks like it could be an agama. I need him to turn around so I can see his face. Beautiful, beautiful color patterns on the back. And it's breeding time for these lizards as well, so they will be displaying the full extent of their coloration. I can hear the creatures that I was trying to find.
I found one.
You found one? Well done, Andrew. Oh, this is one of my favorite creatures out here. We were with Karula, one of the biggest predators out here. This is the smallest predator in the Sabi Sands. It's called a dwarf mongoose. It is a sociable creature, which is why I'm looking all around me to see if I can spot the others. And sometimes very, very curious. No, they're not going to play nice. Let's carry on. Leave the dwarf mongoose to their own devices. I said that they're one of my favorites. The reason being, oh, I can see them running away, the little naughty little things. Exit. Oh, I've acquired a passenger underneath the wheel. There we go. Managed to lose the branch that was attached to us. I've said they're one of my favorite animals, and that's because they're so intelligent. Only the alpha and the alpha male and the alpha female breed and reproduce. The rest of them are just there to help them raise the babies. But when it comes time to compete for the spot of the alpha, so either the alpha male or the alpha female, instead of fighting for it, they have grooming competitions. So they lick and they clean each other until they're absolutely exhausted and cannot continue anymore and are completely coated in saliva. And that is the way that they determine their little hierarchy struggles. Now, Ella, you were wondering what my favorite animal is and why. It's a very difficult one. It depends on my mood. I will say probably the top of my list is rhino. They're the animals that I have worked the most with during my time. I've spent the last 3 or so years living and working in this area, and most of that was spent either out walking, tracking and finding and monitoring both white and black rhino. They're also the animal that I always feel got me really into this whole conservation business and wanting to be out here. And I just love their characteristics and their personalities, the difference between black and white rhino. Now, we do have a policy, although we do get them in this area, we do have a policy here now, due to the fact, and I'm sure you all know about this, due to the fact that there has been a phenomenal and terrible increase in rhino poaching. As a policy, we don't show rhino on our show because we don't want to draw any undue attention to them or even possibly give away their position to potential poachers, because there's so much money involved in the poaching industry that there are access to resources like the one that we provide. That's something that we try not to expose too much. But I think that's probably my favorite animal. Elephants are pretty high up on the list. I think they're incredibly intelligent, they're fun to be with, they're always doing something interesting. I really like giraffe too. And then in terms of predators, top for me is spotted hyena, because they also are probably the most intelligent by far out here and the most entertaining. Now, I'm curious to hear, we're still waiting to get some answers from you guys as to what your favorite animals are. I'm always interested just because it gives me a little bit of insight into what you guys enjoy seeing. Impressive question from Julia. Julia, you were wondering if the mongoose ever interact with birds, and that's the reason I say it's an impressive question is yes, they absolutely do. You might have seen some of the videos from the Kalahari of fork-tailed drongos and meerkats, and the way that the drongo can imitate a meerkat alarm call so that the meerkats run away, drop their kills, and the bird follows in and grabs whatever the meerkat was trying to eat. Now, mongoose, dwarf mongoose in particular, have a very similar relationship with hornbills, so the yellow and the red-billed hornbills. And they've even done studies which show that it's the same birds that follow the mongoose around. They get the scraps, and the mongoose get the extra protection of a set of eyes that can fly up and will warn them of any approaching danger. So it's a beautifully mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship that they have going. And they've even shown in studies that if the mongoose are not awake in the evening, then the hornbill will, or in the morning, the hornbill will sit outside their burrows and call to them repeatedly and try and get them to wake up and come out foraging. Big warm hello to Michaela Carr. Mrs. Carr used to be my biology teacher back in the day, and I still have a very, very vivid memory of a joke about an Irishman and a sack of potatoes attached to my biology lessons in high school. Hello. It's good to not see you again, but at least speak to you again after a very long time. Now, Chloe, you were wondering how long have we been monitoring those birds? The answer is 9 days from when Spot, who's one of my colleagues and fellow presenters, when he found them in that hole to the point that they're at now. So it's a 9 days stage of development. What I'm really looking for is some pregnant impala. Now, Leanne, you were wondering if there are people who stay guarding our rhino. Now, Leanne, I'm not going to answer your question, and it's not because I don't want to, it's because I'm going to keep some of that information to us. You never know who's watching. It's nothing to do with you guys, but there are operations out here that let's just say there are people out here looking after our rhino. I won't give you any further details. One thing that I really appreciate about working out here is that, in answer to Zara's question, no, the Sabi Sands does not allow people to come and hunt. It is against their policy, and it is part of the Greater Kruger National Park, so an area that is protected from anything in those particular respective fields. Now, we could have a long chat about the role that hunting plays out here, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. But no, they do not hunt here, and for that I'm very grateful. I'm desperately looking. I want to see if I can find you an impala. They are so pregnant that there's a good chance we could catch one of them giving birth at any moment. The first ones have been born, which means the rest are soon to follow, but unfortunately we are coming to the end of our very quick safari drive, and I think that you guys have to go. But it has been wonderful to spend a little bit of time with you. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope that you have too. I always feel like these lessons are too short. There's so much out here to show and talk to you about. But I will say a very big thank you to you all for joining us and sending us through your questions. And hopefully we can, Impala! Hopefully we can have you back with us. I'm going to duck my head down for the last few moments, and all I'm going to say to you in terms of encouragement is, guys, please be aware and have as much love and respect for this environment. It's going to be part of your inheritance as South Africans, and it's so important. Have a wonderful day, ladies. Enjoy the rest of your school day, and hopefully I will get you back on the vehicle at some point in the future. Bye-bye. And a very good morning to all of you ladies, and welcome to our live game drive, where you need to sit and imagine that you're on the back of the vehicle with me. Now, my name is Jamie, and I have Andrew sitting on the back operating the camera and doing a fantastically sterling job at that, and we will be your guides for this morning's safari. Now, 8 years ago, I was sitting in that auditorium wearing the same shoes and the same socks that you are now, where I finished my matric year in 2007 is when I finished off at Rodin. Now, guys, I'm really keen to hear from you because essentially your questions come straight through to me, so it's almost like we're talking to each other, and I'm really interested to hear what animal you would like to see, what's your favorite animal, why, or if you have any questions about the amazing things that we see out here, and possibly anything about doing the job that I do, which personally, apart from my inability to breathe and talk and swallow at the same time, I personally think it is one of the best jobs in the entire world. Now we're going to start our safari with a boy called Peter. I probably shouldn't say boy, a bull called Peter. And the reason he's called Peter is because he lives in a pan of water, Now, I'm sure many of you are aware of the fact that the country's been in the grips of quite a severe drought, and the impact that it has on these animals is actually quite severe. So the rivers and the dams that the hippos are usually moving around in, those have got less and less water in them, and that puts the animals themselves under tremendous pressure in terms of space. Now, if you look at Peter's back, you can see the scratches and the wounds that are slowly healing up. Nothing too serious, but the reason that Peter has left his wherever he came from, whichever dam he came from, and joined us in this pan is because Peter's being bullied by other males. I think he's quite an old gentleman. He's a very big hippo and not to be underestimated. Peter looks peaceful and sleepy. That's because he is a nocturnal animal. He's been out all night feeding on grass. But these animals are probably one of the most dangerous that we have out here. Now, it's possibly, now I'm sure many of you have heard, that hippos kill the most people in Africa out of any other animal, apart from what other animal would kill more people by carrying something? But hippos generally are thought to be the mammal that kills the most people. And the reason behind that, of course, is that people need water. They need water to wash in, they need water to drink, which means that all human settlements are built around rivers. And inevitably it means that as soon as somebody comes between a hippo and water, it becomes a very dangerous situation. And animals like Peter, who's sitting slightly injured, a bit grumpy, with very little water to retreat to, makes him an important hippo to keep an eye on. And I don't mean in the car, I mean more on foot if you were walking around this area. Definitely something to watch out for. And hippo, I promise you, there is not a person out there in the auditorium who could outrun this hippo. He moves somewhere in the region of close to 40 kilometers an hour. He can cover 15 meters in a second. You definitely cannot outrun him. They are very, very fast. Now, there's some bird life around here as well. And we will start with a pair of Egyptian geese. Now, you guys will have seen these lots in Johannesburg. I'm sure you've seen them on the school fields, in the various artificial ponds and rivers. They are one of the most widely... Oh, I heard a kingfisher. That's so exciting. The woodlands kingfishers, sorry, just to be a bit distracted, the woodlands kingfishers have just returned from their migratory journey from Central Africa back to here. And they've only started calling now in the last few days. And it's always the sign that summer has really come. Now I'm going to see if I can try and find it at some point before we carry on with our safari. There's also a couple of blacksmith lapwings. Those are called blacksmith lapwings because their call sounds like a blacksmith hitting a hammer against an anvil. We've got this wonderful hippo, and I've said I think he's a fairly old boy. He's definitely a mature bull, just in terms of size. And Aidan, you were wondering what a hippo's lifespan is. Aidan, they're actually quite long-lived animals. They can live up to 40 years old. They reach sexual maturity, so when they can breed, at around between 10 to 13 years of age. Of course, for the males, it takes a bit longer before they have access to the females because they have to be big enough and strong enough to compete with a rival male. So up to 40 years old, and I'm sure there's plenty of thought activity happening during that time. We always think of elephants as being incredibly intelligent, but hippos do 40 years worth of learning out here, so I'm sure that there's some things going on. So this hippo, in theory, could be as old as some of your parents. Definitely an interesting thought. We don't always think about how old the animals are or what they've experienced. I think I'm going to leave Peter because poor Peter has had plenty of activity. He's been up all night and really all he wants to do is go to sleep. So we will leave him to sleep. Let's have a look and see if we can spot that kingfisher. Very interesting question from Louisa as we leave our Peter. Louisa, you were wondering how hippos communicate. Most of it is based on visual communication. So that's all through body language. When you see them yawning, that big open wide yawn, that's not because they're tired. That is a communication, that is actually a threat communication. So they're showing how big and scary their teeth are. Some of it can come through ear movements, and then a lot of communication is also through scent. So the dominant, where are you? I can hear you, kingfisher. You are somewhere here. Let's go and find the kingfisher. Well done, Isabella. Yes, mosquitoes kill more people than hippos. That is because, of course, they transmit malaria, which kills lots and lots of people in Africa every year. Not the bird I'm looking for, but we'll stop for him anyway, just because they always look totally manning, I think. There's something about yellow-billed hornbills that they just look a little bit crazy. Oh, well, bye then. I think he took offense to that. Well done, Andrew. My head out of the way. Just look at that facial expression. Now, I'm sure some of you have seen hornbills in the Kruger Park attacking cars and windows, and that is because they see their reflection and assume that it is another bird, another hornbill, come to challenge them. It's fascinating. They'll do it for hours at a time. There's a pair of them who lives with a bunch of us at Inge's house, which is where we stay. And they'll attack their reflection repeatedly until we actually have to pull the curtains across the windows so that they can't see themselves in the glass. And I promise you, it's not fun being woken up from a nap when a hornbill's smacking the window. Where is this kingfisher? It's somewhere here. Alice, I think that your question is how many babies can a hippo have at a time? The answer is 1. I have never heard of hippos having twins, but it probably, you get those rare circumstances like with elephants and with giraffe where it can happen, but it's very unusual for a big animal like that to have twins. It's usually 1 baby. This kingfisher is somewhere here. Where are you hiding? Please keep your eyes peeled because I actually have to sort of concentrate on not driving off the edge of the damn wall. So whilst Andrew shows you this beautiful scenic drainage line, we're looking out for a bright flash of blue. You might catch the red and the black of the beak as well. But at the moment, all I can hear is Franklin's shouting at me. I think not. We're going to do a quick U-turn and head back in the opposite direction. Well, Megan, while we look for the woodlands kingfisher that I'm after to try and show you. Megan, you were saying you love vervet monkeys, and if there's any chance of seeing them, absolutely, especially here. There is one troop that lives directly in that drainage line and is the perfect early warning system if there's a leopard hunting in this area. We hear them calling quite often when Karula comes walking along here. Now, Karula is on the cards for you all, so we do have a nice surprise for you planned, which is why I've done a U-turn actually. Our Karula is a female leopard, and she's been very kind enough to grace us with her presence for the last 3 days, about 300 meters away from where I live, the house that I live in. I'm still looking for this kingfisher. It's somewhere here, I know it is. And while I do, since it has been escaping us, GB, you were wondering how fast do kingfishers move? And I have a confession to make. I have absolutely no idea. The important aspect about this job is being able to say, I don't know, when you don't know, and I really don't know. My guess would be from flying next to birds of a similar size, sorry, not flying, I can't fly, driving next to a bird of a similar size flying next to me, I would guess maybe around 30-40 kilometers an hour, just at a normal flying speed. That is a guess. I'm not sure. Maybe if any of you guys know, you can let me know. I'm happy to learn from you guys as well. Oh, the wind's back up and the clouds have come back, and I can take my hat off again. Mrs. Saboteur, we just drove past the rather empty dam, and I've spoken about the drought and the hippo, but you can see that we have had some rain. It has started to go green, and you wanted to know how much rain we have had. The answer is, let me think, we probably had in the last few days probably about 20 mils, if that. And just before that, it rained about a month before that, where we had about maybe 10 mils, and then a day with 30. So in total, we've had somewhere in the region of 50 mils so far. It's nice because it's quite early in the season, and of course, our rainiest time is between January to March. That is when we get the heaviest rain. And I was in this area 2 years ago when the rains came down and we had 200 mils in one day. And I ended up being stranded. It was amazing to watch the rivers come up like that. It was phenomenal. I was completely stranded in the house I was staying at. I couldn't leave. I couldn't get my car through the rivers. And a lot of camps were washed away as well. It's hard to believe we've had that difference between the wet season that we had, 2 years of floods, and now 2 years apparently of drought. That's what the experts are predicting. Hoping, I don't think they're in anymore. There's a pair of Wahlberg's eagles that lives in this tree. I'm going to get a position so Andrew can show you the bottom of the nest. That messy bundle of sticks that you're looking at, I think that will have a chick in it by now. And those are Wahlberg's eagles. Unfortunately, I think they're out and about hunting. Driving around what I think is one of the best places to be in. It's definitely one of the best places for game viewing. And I've actually just changed. No, we go this way. We'll go this way. It's one of the joys of being in charge, is you can decide which road to go down. Now we're in the Sabi Sands, which is about 65,000 odd hectares of private land, but because it is part of the Greater Kruger The Greater Kruger concession means that although it's privately owned by individual people, its borders are completely open to the Kruger National Park. So that puts us, at the moment, we're driving around in an area that is completely wild and is larger than the size of some small countries. So the Greater Kruger area covers 2.7 million hectares, 2.7 million soccer fields or hockey pitches that you play hockey on. It is mind-boggling. I can barely comprehend the amount of space that we actually have out here. I hope that answers Put Luano's question about how big the place is that we're driving on. We drive on just a tiny little segment of it. I hear you, mongoose. I'm shifting backwards because I can hear a dwarf mongoose talking to me. I want to see if I can find him for you. Stop here for one moment. I can hear it chirping. I'm going to be really quiet so that you can listen as well. See if it carries on. No, I can't see where it is, and it's gone very quiet. So we'll leave them be for now. I really wanted to show you what is probably one of my favorite animals out here. Let's continue on because I've spotted an answer to Mbali's question. Shame. And at this point I want to go as slowly as possible so I don't disturb them, and I'll explain that in a moment. Now Mbali, you were wondering how many young there are in the park and which animals are about to give birth. Now the reason I'm sneaking up this way is because the impala, and they're the most numerous animal out here. There's a good, I don't know, probably about 200,000 more impala out here, and pretty much every single female, with the odd exception of the young females, is pregnant and about to give birth. There's even a chance as we watch them that one of them could have a baby. They've snuck in there. Sneaky impala. They're on their way, I think, to go and have a drink. They're disappearing down a game path. Now Mbali, as I said, every single one of these impala, disappeared. We'll try and loop them and catch them on the other side, is pregnant, and within the space of about 3 days is going to be having a baby. How many young there are, I couldn't begin to tell you. I will tell you that most of the wildebeest are pregnant, a lot of the zebras. You get a big peak in terms of breeding season around this time of year because there's rain, so there's plenty of food for the mothers to eat. And we should be seeing more and more. Life is very, very tough out here, and a lot of the animals suffer quite serious injuries in the course of just being a wild animal out here. And both Hannah and Mrs. Carr, you were wondering if we ever interfere, and the answer is yes, if the injury is in some way caused by a human being. So for example, if an animal's been caught by a snare, so something put down by bushmeat poachers on the fringes of reserves, or if it's had some kind of gunshot wound, anything like that, then yes, we will interfere. And if it's an endangered, very, very endangered species, then there is an argument for helping them out. If the injury is inflicted in a natural way, if it's been caused, that's a lot of Inyala. If it's been caused in the natural course of being an animal out here, so inflicted by another animal, maybe in a fight, anything like that, then we do leave them. And it can be very sad to watch. The male is desperately courting the female there, having a good sniff. He's just chased a young male away from that entire group of Nyala. They're one of my favorite animals, and just look at the difference. The male is the brown one with horns. The females are the little tanned, striped creatures moving behind him. I mean, shift backwards so we can watch them, because this could actually be very interesting. Ooh, let's see if I can start the car. There we go. Zip backwards. One thing I will tell you about doing this job is you learn to reverse very well. You spend a lot of your time reversing. Shame. This poor little male. He keeps getting chased away by the big male. And I mean, he's too young to even think about breeding with these females. Hey boy. Shame. He's being bullied. This is wonderful. I haven't seen very many big herds of Inyala like this before. It's a perfect chance. That's the young male that I was talking about. He's a teenager. He's still starting to get that dark color. His horns have only just really started growing in the last year or so. He's a young bull. Oh, there he goes. Shame. He's definitely not welcome. All he wants to do is hang out in the company of the females, and that big dominant bull keeps pushing him away. Definitely one of the most beautiful antelope out here. Now, Nyala are not territorial, and they're generally quite sociable creatures, but what you might find is with a herd this big, with a load of females in it, some of them might be coming into estrus, which is why this big bull is following behind them. Those are the females that you've been looking at now, with their big radar ears to help pick up any sounds. Now, they like to live in thick bush. They don't generally see them out in the open like this, which is why this is such a treat. One of the best things to watch is an Inyala trying to fight. Shame. You can see the young male trying to get back towards the herd because there's safety in numbers and anyone on the outskirts is very vulnerable. But he just isn't being given the option by the big male, and we might want to watch how this plays out. He's walking behind. So far the older bull hasn't budged him. Now these Inyala could have come from absolutely anywhere, and I know Mrs. Forbes, you were wondering if the animals wander freely. Yes, they do. The fences are completely dropped between the Sabi Sands and Kruger, as well as a good couple of other concessions. So Beluli, Manyaleti, Timbavati, all of those animals can move around. One of the big male lion coalitions that we have at the moment, known as the Birmingham Boys, they've moved in from... Oh, shame. Oh, poor boy. They've moved in from a farm that's probably about 40 kilometers away from where we are now. So they do move incredibly freely. Now, these Inyala have been wonderful while we watch that poor young male trying to get back into the herd. And I think probably there is a female that's coming into estrus, so is going to be ready to breed, which is why that male is performing as he is and being a bit of a bully. Mrs. Saboteur is a permanent resident of the Kruger National Park, so you know it very, very well. It is an incredible place to move about and observe the natural behavior because the animals here are so used to the human presence. It means that they behave perfectly naturally in our presence and we can watch them, and really, especially in this particular job, we've been following the stories of we have viewers that have been following stories of individuals from their birth. Now we're on our way towards a particularly special leopard, and I know some of our viewers have been watching her from birth to the age she is now. It's incredible to think of. yesterday, or no, sorry, it was the day before, they were on our property. Now, Shantae, you were wondering how many lions we have and whether or not there's a chance that you could see them. Hello, little ones. I'm going to stop because they are going to pop their heads out again. And I'm going to whisper while I answer this question. Hello. Running, 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 running. Hello, little dwarf mongoose. This is what I was trying to find for you earlier when there was all those calls. Look at that little head. Yes, hello. Yes, hello. Come on. You can be brave. It's all right. Sorry, to go back to the question about lions, in the Kruger Park or the greater Kruger area, there's probably, I would say, about somewhere close to 3,000 now in terms of numbers, possibly even more. The area around the Satara camp in the Kruger National Park has the highest density of lions anywhere in the world. It is incredibly lion-rich as an environment. There is always a chance we could see the Birmingham boys, but they have a territory of about 10,000, I would say, 10,000 acres, 10,000 hectares, might be a bit, no, about 10,000 hectares. And we move about in around 2,000 of those. So we are part of their central core territory now. There's always a chance we could see them. It's a coalition of 5 young males. That is the lion, of course, is our biggest predator. You're currently looking at the smallest predator that we have out here, the dwarf mongoose. Sociable little creatures, and as they move about foraging, they are ferocious killers of scorpions. They will dig them out of their burrows and catch them and detach the sting from their tail. And they have, speaking from experience, very, very sharp teeth. I had one hanging from my nose once, and it was less than pleasant in terms of an experience. She was very cute right up until she bit me in the nostril. It was a banded mongoose called Goose. It was an animal that had been rescued by a friend of mine. She lost her family. Now, it's important to remember, though, that Goose was a rescued animal, but she was well cared for and checked up by a vet. I'm not sure if any of you have heard about this, but at the moment there's been a serious outbreak of rabies, which is why it's important to respect the animals out here. They are wild. They're not meant to be pets, particularly mongoose. They're meant to be social creatures with social other mongoose, not with people. And they are carriers of rabies, so important to remember that. Alice, as we make our way to one spotted cat, speaking about another, Alice, you were wondering if there are cheetah in the Sabi Sands. Yes, there are. I have hardly ever seen them in this particular area. The reserve I used to work at, I used to see them probably about once a week, but this particular area, because it's open, the animals can move freely where they want to, and cheetah cover enormous distances in their lives. They generally tend to move across to areas that are slightly more open, better suited for their hunting requirements. And this particular area that we drive about in isn't the best habitat for cheetahs, but they do come through. And of course, the always entertaining, always incredibly exciting wild dogs have been moving. They've got 2 packs moving through this area at the moment. Definitely one of my favorites. That a lot of you, including Sarah and Alexis, Alice and Morgan, you're all asking about rhino, which is actually probably my favorite animal. And in answer to your question, yes, poaching is an enormous problem. Essentially whenever you see those horrific totals of rhino numbers that are being killed, about half of that happens in the greater Kruger area. It's a very tragic tale and something that is very close to my heart. What we do as a WildEarth policy is we do not show rhino. It's partly as a statement against rhino poaching, but it's also so that we don't draw attention to them. Poaching brings in so much money that you never know who has access to the internet and who might be watching. And we definitely don't want to contribute in any way to the possibility of a rhino being found and poached. As I said, there is so much money involved and a lot of inside information. It's a very sad state of affairs because I would love to find rhino and talk about them for you. Hello, girl. I see you watching. Special surprise. She is so tucked away in there. But we're going to show you. Can you spot the leopard? Have you seen the leopard yet? Andrew, have you seen the leopard yet?
I have. Good. It took me a while, but I found it.
Well done.
I'm not going to give it away just yet, though.
You're not going to give it away. Have a look, guys. Look closely for the spots, maybe a flash of white somewhere in there. And that is how incredible leopard camouflage works. You would never know. If I didn't know she was there, I would never have seen her. I don't think. Alright. Well, I'm not going to keep you in suspense any longer. I'm going to try and loop around so that we can get a better view of the wonderful Queen of Djuma without invading her space too much. Karula, that looks so uncomfortable. That cannot be comfortable. It's a terrible tree to be hiding out in. Just get my car into low range. She is very much fast asleep. I think that's probably a good angle to start with, although I know the sky is very bright behind her. There you go. Hey, sleepy cat. Hello, beautiful. There, thank you. A brief glance by Queen Karula. The reason we call her the Queen is this is the center of her territory, and she has ruled over this area as the dominant female leopard for about 11 years. And during that time, she's proved to be a fearsome hunter and a very protective and wonderful mother. It's not an easy job being a single mom if you're a leopard. It's tough out there, and a lot of things want to kill your cubs, but she's done a fantastic job, and she's essentially all of the adjacent areas around us are the territories of her offspring, mainly her daughters, but her two young boys, Punuma and Karula, also move around here. I have yet to see both of them properly, but I've heard some fantastic stories about the characters that she's produced. And Karula means the peaceful one, and she's definitely looking very peaceful, if not very uncomfortable, in her position there. Now, we can't see it too clearly, but one of her main identifying features is her spots. Spell out wow, and look, that is why she's in this uncomfortable tree. I know it's sad, and it is hard to see, but that is the remains of the impala kill that she has had for the last 3 days here. She's done very well to kill an impala, particularly a big female. It has fed her for a good while, and last night she spent, I think, probably close to the whole night trapped up a marula tree. So not the jackalberry that she's in now, but a marula tree. And beneath her was a very patient, rather hungry hyena waiting for scraps of her kill. Now, leopards do occasionally, while they're trying to feed, they do sometimes drop their kills out of trees by mistake. And I think the hyena was waiting both for that and for the scraps of the kill to drop down to the base of the tree. I think, however, that hyena went hungry last night, and she managed to outweight him. Now, hyenas and leopards do clash. Leopards do lose their kills to hyena, which is why Karula is such a clever girl by dragging her kill up into this jackalberry. It must have been phenomenal to watch. She's tiny. She's about 45 kilograms of leopard. That impala must have weighed close to 60. So she did a very impressive job pulling it up into a tree with both just teeth and claws. said that Karula has established herself as the queen. At 11 years of age, she is now the matron of this area. Both Frankie and Voti, you were wondering, how long do leopards and cheetah live? Leopards can live up to 20 years in the wild, although those are generally unusual cases, and you'll find that the females will live longer than the males. Once a male gets past his prime at about 10, 11, he becomes a nomadic male. He can no longer fight with bigger, younger, stronger males, and he has to move around nomadically, and there's a good chance he's going to be killed by a younger rival male. Female leopards tend to be less violent, so they can live a little bit longer. And I think there's records of 16-year-old leopards still being able to have cubs, but that's quite unusual. Cheetah, slightly shorter lifespan. You're looking at about 16 maximum, but usually around 10, 11 would be the time that they start getting old. And cheetah are interesting. Cheetah as a species struggles out here with a high population of leopards and lions and hyenas. They are right at the bottom of the predator hierarchy. They need huge, huge areas of space to move around in, and they don't like being fenced. And what I'm going to try and do is shift around, and while I do that, I'm going to answer Lex's question about hyena population. My favorite predator. I love spotted hyena. I think they're fantastic. Alexa, in terms of in terms of hyena population, we've got a clan that we think is probably somewhere in the region of 20 individuals that moves about in this area. So I think that would probably, one of the members of that clan was probably the one that was sitting under Karula's tree all night, and this morning the hyena was here. Shift ever so slightly. Oh, Karula, that was so uncomfortable, girl. Amazing how leopards, and I'm sure you must find this with your pet cats if you have any at home, amazing how comfortable they can look in the most uncomfortable of positions. In terms of hyena population in this entire area, I don't know the exact answer to that question. It would probably be at a ratio of about 2 hyena to every 1 lion, so bigger than the lion population. Maybe that's a little bit of an overestimate. So if I said there's up to 3,000 lions, there's probably close to 3,500 hyena. Depends on which part of the reserve you're in. Looking at this extraordinary leopard. Not that she wants to look back, do you, Karula? Both Tiasa and Didi, you were wondering if there have been animal attacks in this area on rangers or guests. In answer to your question, yes, it does happen out here. These are wild animals. They are dangerous animals, and they deserve and sometimes demand a certain level of respect. That being said, it is a far smaller chance than any other risk to human life that we face in the world at the moment. They are wild. Sometimes their space is not respected enough, and they let people know. And it's always important to remember that no matter how relaxed an animal may seem or have been the day before, you don't know exactly what has happened in that animal's life before that. And an elephant that may have been perfectly calm with you the day before might decide that it is no longer in a good mood. And that is why it's so important to spend as much time as possible with these animals and to really practice reading their body language. Because a lot of the time you can tell how an animal's feeling by the way that they're acting. Yes, animal attacks do happen. They are very sad. And we've all personally had our moments where sightings have gone slightly wrong, or we've encountered an animal we didn't expect to on foot. Now this carcass is nearly finished. It is pretty much, not much, there's bit of head and a bit of the shoulder skin. And there's a chance when she next tries to feed it that it could fall out of the tree that she's in. Now she's up and looking, so we've got a beautiful view of her face. Hello, gorgeous. Look at those incredible eyes of hers. Looking up at the birds flying. Hello, girl. Now both Sophie and Wendy, you were wondering whether or not, as we look at this beautiful cat, settled rather precariously in the tree, you were wondering if they ever fall out. The answer is yes. It's quite unusual. I never understand how they manage to sleep and balance in the way that they do. Leopard cubs are generally the ones that do fall out of trees. They're still practicing their coordination, and I've seen her grandson go tumbling out of trees before that he was trying to climb as a young cub. It does happen, and I always imagine that if I still haven't seen an adult leopard fall out of a tree, but I somehow imagine if they did, they would look terribly embarrassed. I imagine, and try and then pass it off as nonchalance. Oh, that's gorgeous. Now, guys, don't forget that what you're watching now, I'm sitting here right now as you're watching in the Sabi Sands. It takes an incredible amount of technology that I don't even begin to understand. We sit with a cameraman, a wonderful cameraman on the back, and a giant metal rod that points into the sky and somehow sends what we're watching across to you over the internet. That's one of my favorite things about this is, first of all, it's completely unpredictable what you're going to see. We don't ever edit or try record again. And you can't get an animal to stop what they're doing just because it didn't suit the camera. So we could even see her fall out of her tree. Now we've got this beautiful view of her tail, which in fact acts as a way of keeping her in the tree. And Louisa, you were wondering how long her tail is. It's about 2/3 of her body length. In terms of length, it's about just over a meter, and heavy. I've had a chance to field darted leopards before that were being darted for conservation purposes, and their tail is much, much heavier than you expect it to be, and it works just like a cat. When she's angry, it thrashes. When she's distracted, it twitches. It's quite incredible to see. Our wonderful queen has brought up multiple litters of cubs. Rebecca, you were wondering how many cubs do leopards have at a time. The answer is the average is 2. There are recorded cases of 3, but it's quite unusual. It's generally just 2, and it is a very difficult. Leopard cubs have an extremely high mortality rate, and almost half of those that are killed by strange male leopards who've wandered in and found them. And they kill the cubs so that they can bring the female back into estrus, so get her ready to breed again, and so that they can pass on their genetics. And I've said that she's raised all of those cubs as a solitary single mother. And yes, Frank, you are right. Leopards do not move in groups. The only time you will see a leopard in the company of another one, in general, is when they are mating. So they spend about 5 days in the presence of either a male or a female, or in the case where they have cubs. So if they're busy raising cubs, and they'll spend about 2 years with those cubs coming and going. But other than that, yes, leopards are completely solitary. Well, guys, I'm afraid that brings us to the end of our safari. It always feels so short when I have you ladies sort of sitting on the back of my vehicle. But I hope you had a wonderful time, and I hope you found it interesting and learned a lot from it. I love taking you guys out, and I love interacting with you and hearing your questions. So big thank you to you guys as well as your teachers, and as always a big thank you to my cameraman Andrew, who does a fantastic job. Have a wonderful rest of your school day, and we're going to finish off with the beautiful Queen of Djuma. I hope to see you again in the future. Bye bye for now. Oh, and bye, Mrs. Carr. Please say hello to Marina. Thank you.